Morning and welcome to LoveWorkLife 60-minute mentor webinar. I hope everyone's fit and well and raring to go. If you can hear me, just please drop a little note into the chat room or into the question and answer box so we can see that people are here. People are sort of flooding in now, which is good to see. Francesca, thank you very much. And Natalie, thank you very much. Always quick off the mark there. So good to see lots of people sort of filling in. Hope everyone's having a good week and enjoying the weather. It's certainly sunny up here in the north. I've just been speaking to Paul. It's sunny down there in south, so I'm assuming the Midlands has got the same weather as well. Otherwise, there's a big cloud across the Midlands from there. Good to see some people from all over the place. There's lots of people from the UK. So England's fully covered. Scotland, some guys from Scotland are in as well, which is good. Guys from Wales. And have I seen our Northern Ireland people as yet? Not as yet. But actually, it's Brighton. In Brighton, it's gorgeous. Always down the beach, there on the Pebbly Beach. I'm sure it will be. So we're going to kick off today and really sort of look at what we've been doing over the last 10 weeks. And I can't believe that it's been 10 weeks since Paul and I actually started this. And, you know, when we started it, we thought, what sort of response would we get? What sort of response would we have from the listeners and how would people engage with us? And it's basically grown and grown each week, which has been really, really good for us. Someone from Dublin's in. Catherine's from Dublin as well. So we've covered all areas from there, which is good. And what we was discussing was that the amount of things that we've come across over the last 10 weeks has been immense. The amount of information that we've sent out has been really, really sort of good, strong messages. And what we wanted to do was sort of bring that back to you guys and then start to ask serious questions from you and answer those questions with what's going on. So we've had over 20 questions sent in, which is really good. We've got a couple of people who've said on the invite that they wanted to wait until the webinar had gone live before they asked their questions. So what I want you to do is we've grouped the questions together so we can try address certain questions that look very, very similar all in one time. If we can do that, then that'd be great. If you want to interact and it's your question, then if you can put your hand up in the chat room or on the question box and we can see that you want to interact, then what we'll do is we can come directly to you and we can have that conversation with you. And that saves us sort of a little bit of time for us because we've got an hour and we've got some massive topics to really cover off, which is really, really good. So I'm going to throw it open to Paul and interested in your comments, Paul, on the questions that have come in and your initial thoughts, and then we can start to answer them.
Well, absolutely. Hi, everybody. It's great to be back again. Gorgeous day, absolutely stunning day, and I hope you're going to get out there at some point and enjoy the sunshine. Because as with all British people, we realise that it's not going to last terribly long. So go and enjoy it whilst you can, especially at the moment, whilst we're at home. Great to be here, and I mean, we've been overwhelmed with questions, and I'm sure you've got some more to add, but there's a huge variety of questions here that we'll start to run through. Howard and I actually think that we're probably going to struggle to get through them all today, which in the sense is a good thing. And if that is the case, then we'll push them into next week and we'll revisit the ones that we failed to connect with this week. I think the first question the one that's on the top of our list is from Nicola Hardy. Hi, Nicola. And Nicola says, what do you think the single most important thing we should be doing as recruiters right now? So Howard, what do you think? What would your view be as the single most important thing we should be doing now in the 10th week of lockdown, beginning to approach a relaxation of the rules?
I think to me, it's very, very simple. To me, this is like a end of season, close season period of a football league. And when the league starts again, you need to be fit and ready for what's actually going on. And therefore, I think, we should be training and upskilling ourselves ready for when that sprint starts. Because if we're not ready and we've let our skills degrade over 10 weeks, and if you start to think about that in the way when sometimes people go on holiday just for 2 weeks and they come back and they're a little bit rusty and they're a little bit out of sorts and out of sync. We've been off now 10 weeks And therefore, I think we need to be really drilling home the basics of recruitment and understanding what they are. So to me, that would be the first thing I'd start to look at is my skill set, how up to date is it, and how prevalent is it in the current marketplace, what I'm doing. Are there new skills that I need to learn in order to sort of compete in this modern marketplace? So that's the first thing I'd start to look at, Paul.
I think we're in this point now, Howard, where we really need to be engaging with clients and particularly candidates. I know that's been going on anyway, and there's some further questions here around when do we start to really get deeper into our clients and start discussing with them their requirements. And I think we're at that point. It's already clear that certain industries are back at work. We know that that's true in construction. We know that's true in the supply chain around construction. Engineering are coming back to work now. Obviously, we're aware of the fact that, very aware of the fact that healthcare has never really gone away. It's clearly been very heavily working. And there are various other sectors that, the sort of early signs of normality are beginning to return. You saw Boris talk last week about car showrooms coming back and shops reopening in the next few weeks. And there's another nice bit of news around from the Times today around the fact that apparently we're going to hear in the next few days that we'll be able to go and visit our families outdoors. 2 households can join outdoors, not indoors, but outdoors. All of these are good signs. And I think we're beginning to see things relaxing. So on that premise, and I've said this right from the very beginning, the moment we start seeing good news, the sentiment starts to change around business too. And I think that our clients are very clearly thinking very seriously about returning to work, getting their workplaces ready for work. So I think one of the things you've got to be thinking about, and I'm sure you are, is how do you make your workplace safe so people can start to return very soon. So although we can't do that yet, get back to offices, what are we going to be doing in terms of making sure that we make it a safer workspace as we can? So that's all about making sure the kitchen areas are safe, that we have wipes for handles, for fridge doors, for taps. You think about cutlery, you think about plates and cups and so forth, and do people bring their own in, and cleaning, deep cleaning desks and keyboards and so on and so on. All those things need to be considered. But for me, the most important thing right now is to be starting very seriously to get in contact with clients and asking questions about their plans and expecting that they will remain, as we are, a little bit foggy at the moment. Well, it really shouldn't preclude us from having those early discussions. And certainly, Howard, I know you've been having this. I've had it. We're definitely getting clients now telling us that they're picking up some vacancies, some assignments, not masses, but a few. And that in itself is good news, green shoots. We know that we're going to head towards a recession. I mean, there's no debate about that. We shouldn't even discuss the possibility, is it or isn't it happening? Yes, we're going to be entering recession, but we think and we hope that it's going to be a relatively short-lived recession. Despite that point, we're about as low as we can be in terms of trading at the moment in most areas of recruitment. So we have to look at it from a positive side, which is new business, even relatively small amounts of business, is a big step forward at this point. And I think we are, all of us, feeling ready to go, raring to go. And I'd make one second point to this, and that is that you need to get, and I'm picking up Howard's theme, you need to get your people ready. You need to get them fit, ready to go, getting their heads in the right space. And I think we'll come back to this point shortly when we talk about mental health, but getting them back into that work mode, particularly furloughed staff. We've had 10 weeks of being at home, getting used to being at home. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that makes us lazy or we're feeling sluggish, but I do think that getting back into that work routine, that regime, is something that we need to gear towards. As Howard rightly said, it's a bit like getting athletes ready for a new season. You know, you start to get them jogging and then moving quicker and picking up the pace. And I think that's exactly what we need to be doing, getting more urgency into our work, more urgency into our communication, both internally and externally.
So I think that sort of leads very nicely into a question that both Ali and Nick have asked from Star Recruitment. For those who've been for those that we've been speaking to, and your thoughts, do you anticipate most recruitment businesses with teams in furlough will experience significant challenges bringing those people back into work? And then Nick asked on the end of that question, how do you motivate a team to return to work when they're enjoying furlough a bit too much?
Those are really good questions. Look, I think this furloughing situation has been obviously a blessing in lots and lots of ways. But let's be very clear. There are lots of people with your clients, and indeed some of your own people, who will be really worried about the end of furloughing and whatever that means, because we know that the government are going to extend furloughing. We also know that they're asking, or will be asking, for a contribution from employers pretty soon. The rumor is somewhere between 20 to 30% of the 80% of the salary that people will continue to receive, up to £2,500 a month. I think, and I believe that employees will be thinking this too, that when that happens, when employers are asked to start paying something towards employees, some of those employees will be let go. We are going to see a spike in unemployment figures coming up with our clients, and let's be very clear, within our own industry. And I think that some of our people will be concerned about that. Not all of them, of course. The vast majority are obviously going to come back to work, but some of those guys that we've furloughed there's going to be some tough decisions to be taken fairly soon. So keeping that in mind, that people will be feeling insecure, worried, concerned about the future, worrying whether they'll have a job to come back to. Some of them will be worried about what the new modern world of work is going to look like. Can they do it? What do they say to clients? How do they approach candidates? Can they still do the figures that they were planning to perform at the levels they were performing at pre-COVID? Can they do that again post-COVID? What will their targets look like? Will they be able to achieve them? What sort of support will they need? There'll be a million questions going around their minds. And there'll be a level of confidence crisis as well with quite a few of the people that we work with. Concerns and worries, and all of those things are things that we as leaders of businesses need to be cognizant of. I think that means for you guys, and I know you're doing this, but I mean regular calls with furloughed staff, both group calls and particularly one-on-one calls. I think you need to be making those calls now, putting in time, an hour, 2 hours with each person this week, ongoing, getting each of them individually ready and raring to go, and really understanding what their concerns are. You need to be listening, actively listening to them, and really understanding what their worries might be. Some of them will be gung-ho, some of them will be very, very keen and very up for getting back and full of beans and raring to go. But there will be a percentage who will be concerned and suffering from a level of stress and anxiety. And you need to be very aware of who they are and how you're going to deal with that. And that will require you to be empathetic towards them. It will require you to think about your own emotions and anxieties and connect with those things. Because the only way you can empathize with people is to truly understand what they're feeling by understanding your own feelings. So it's about you also, and we'll talk about this in terms of mental health, being aware of your own sort of frailties and concerns so you can connect with your guys. I think that's really, really important with furloughed staff, particularly getting them back into the work theme, getting them back into that state of mind, ready to go.
I think there's another sort of side to that. I think that I've looked at this and I've spoke to a number of clients about is it's almost like launching your business again. And when you launch a business, what you get excited about is the business plan, the strategy, and everything you're implementing coming from there. So if you've taken this time, the last 10 weeks to start to really replan, restructure, and sort of re-energize your business, there's a great opportunity now to sort of bring everybody together, whether it be on Zoom or whether it be, a webinar, whether it be, outdoors, everyone 2 meters apart. There's a great opportunity to bring people together and actually spell out what your business plan is going forward. And I think if you want to really motivate a team that, as you've said there, Nicholas, has been enjoying furlough a bit too much, there comes a time that they want to get back to work. And if they have expiring targets, if they have an inspiring sort of succession plan that they're looking at, if they're looking at the business and they can see what the business is going to do that's different than before, then they'll start to really want to get on that journey. And I think that's the mission of every leader at the moment, is how you communicate what your mission is going to be and what your journey is going to be when you come back will be really important to the staff. They'll want to be part of that. If you're still in that process at the moment of pulling those plans together and that strategy together, what a great opportunity of also bringing in your key players within the business and get them to help and develop that strategy and pull a strategy together that looks as if it's being brought together by the whole business. And that way, what you start to do is you start to get people, I suppose, being part of your mission, being part of your company. And we talked about this over the last couple of weeks, the difference between people who love working for your company and the people who like working for your company. What you're looking for now is those people who truly love working for your company, and they will stand in the trenches with you and work really hard. And if they've got a plan, a strategy, a focus with where they're going, I think that will really, really motivate people, and they can see that. And that includes looking at your clients and looking at what your clients are doing. So as they're coming in, if you've got a plan of what your business is going to do, but also you're talking to the clients and you've got a strategic plan to find out what your clients are doing, you can then start to really map a pipeline over the next 3, 6, 12 months of what the business could expand like if the clients do exactly what you do, what they're saying they're going to do. So there's a lot of things that I think that could be really motivational to staff to bring them back in and make them ready for the new world of work. And I think it's getting everybody on that same page, but not just on the same page, on the same line, on the same letter, all focused in the same direction. And it's a great opportunity to readdress your business.
Just another point on this, Howard, and we've said this all along over the last 10 weeks. People will really demonstrate their loyalty to businesses as we get into work again, based on their experiences over the last 10 weeks or so during lockdown. So, if you've consistently looked after your people, if you've been loyal with your people, taking care of them, not just from a financial point of view, but particularly through a compassionate perspective, and support, if you've supported them, then I think you can reasonably expect they will reciprocate. They'll be equally loyal to you going forward. But I think that we will all be judged on how we've treated each other during this period. And it isn't, in a sense, too late if you feel perhaps that you haven't maybe connected with your furloughed and indeed existing staff as much as you could have done. Then you really need to double up now. You really need to try to make up for lost time if you're going to keep those good guys working for you as we come out of this. And we all of us talking about the new world of work, but underpinning what that will be the same tenets that we've always had in our business, which is that if you have the right people working for you and they are motivated, and as Howard rightly said, they share your vision for the future, they share your behaviors and values, then you have a successful business. And it's always been that, people by people, and you get the right team and you get the right camaraderie, the right spirit in your business, and you can do anything. You can walk through walls. So reconnecting with your people right now is so important. And you have a few weeks left, obviously, before we get back to working properly again. And so it's not too late if you feel perhaps you haven't done as much as you should have done. And if you have been working hard with them, great. My opinion is you need to step that up again as well. Improve, enhance, really escalate your level of communication, because each day is a day lost if you're not really focusing on that.
Okay, so we had a couple of questions that sort of come in, and I sort of jump around the question list here, Paul, so we can cover across quite a few. So I had a couple of questions come in from Abby Gibbs, to Clara Rose, and from Natalie Judge. And it was, how often do you suggest checking in with clients? And do you have any ideas about what content we should share or how we should stay engaged without annoying them? At first, I thought it'd be good to check in with clients weekly, sharing useful information, ideas, and just seeing how they are. But I don't want to keep doing that sort of email and that call just for the sake of it. Clara asked, how do you keep in touch with clients without bugging them during the next few months? And how do we stay connected with our clients that have put recruitment on hold?
So these are great questions. And, I think if you think about pre-COVID, there's always the question about what do we say to clients? I mean, how often have consultants said to you guys, I'm okay to phone. What do I phone about? What's the reason for calling? And I think that there are an enormous number of reasons for calling, but I'm going to come back to a very basic point, and it's the one I always give as an answer when I'm always asked, what was my reason for calling? It comes down to something pretty straightforward. It's about offering candidates. I know that's, everyone listening to is kind of chuckling because, to be frank, if you think about every reason we have to call clients, and there are innumerable reasons, the one most obvious reason, the one we should be doing all the time, is offering candidates. So I'm going to come back to what I said right at the top of this conversation. We need to be talking to candidates. Who's available? Who wants to change jobs? One of the things that's quite interesting, and we experienced recruiters know this, that during Christmas periods, holiday periods, summer periods, what happens to people, and it happens to us sometimes, is we sit there contemplating our navels, thinking about our futures, thinking about what we want to do with our lives, our relationships, our careers. So what can we expect when we come out of this? We can expect lots of that behavior. We can expect a lot of candidates, a lot of employees who have spent 10, 12, how many other weeks we're going to be in lockdown, thinking about their lives. Do I want to work for my current employer any longer? Do I want to stay there? Do I want to change jobs? What else do I want to do? And I think there will be any number of people right now who will be thinking along those lines and will demonstrate that attitude when you speak with them. We need to identify those people, the good quality candidates that are up for change, and we need to be speaking to clients fairly soon, very soon, about them. It's a solid reason for picking up a phone and having a conversation. I also think very clearly that as flaky as the information is out there around when we're returning to work, how we're going to return to work, things around how people are going to travel in and out of work, a safe workspace, issues around furloughed staff, all the things that we've been talking about are the very questions that our employer clients are thinking through as well. And we are probably in a good position to be providing good, solid, common sense advice, pragmatic advice to clients who will actually be very keen to hear our opinions. We speak to employers, an awful lot of employers every week, and passing on information, generic information to others is very useful. People that work in one company tend to work in a bit of a silo. They don't have the opportunity as we do to be informed to the extent we are by talking to so many other employers. You are a conduit. You are a conduit for that information. You are the person that will pass on very valuable information. You may end up repeating yourself 20, 30 times a day, but that's very useful information for your clients, a solid reason for speaking to them. And as we've been talking about our visions in our business for the future, so will your clients. They'll be talking to about where they want to go, what they want to achieve by the end of the year, how things have amended or altered their perspectives over the next 2 to 3 years. All of those things are important discussions. So I think there are innumerable methods of connecting with clients right now. I mean, asking them for lots of roles to work on, we all know is simply not going to happen. And I don't think you lead in with the old, what roles can we help you with at the moment? I think you have to be clearly cleverer, more smart than that. But if we are connecting with them right now, naturally they will start providing you with those opportunities. So I still think there's a level of softly, and I think you come about it from the perspective of being consultative, leading to finding out what their plans are, leading to you gaining opportunities to work on, if not now, fairly soon in the next few weeks.
I think there's those questions there, and the answer there is straightforward. Yes, we should be offering candidates, But I think when we're talking to clients, I think engaging them on that human front and engaging on them as people and imparting knowledge to help them with their job is now so much important. And we'll talk about this a bit later on in some of the questions on there, that I think as every recession has come and gone since the 80s, recruitment has changed quite significantly during that period. If you go back into the 80s, when it was all about profit from the recruitment agencies, and you were driving, hit your KPIs, smash your KPIs, etc., the yuppie type of organization, and we were driving in, and we didn't really care that much about the client, and we didn't really care that much about the candidate, so to speak, but we drove in and we were smashing targets, etc. And every recession that's happened, it started to sort of swing that pivot a little bit. And what I mean by that is, if you take, that type of transactional recruitment right at the top and nurturing recruitment at the bottom, it's now starting to pivot the other way. And I think we've got to the point where the last major recession, lots of clients start to sort of understand the importance of recruitment and the importance of getting the right people into their business. Hence the expansion of in-house recruiters, the expansion of the RPO offering, because they believe that they've got people that are actually on their side and working within their business or part of their business. And so if we're going back and speaking to clients and treating clients in that way, and we are working with them and you treating them where you want to understand their business and help them solve and cure the problems of their business rather than just to put a bum on a seat, you'll start to find that you'll get more interaction with your client and you'll have longer conversations. So back to the initial comment, was always have a reason to call is really important. And what is that reason? That reason doesn't have to be about recruitment. That reason could be about how the business is growing, how, if the business is shrinking, how can you help them? What can you do? The message could be, how can I get that message out into the marketplace for you, Mr. Client, so you can see those type of things then spread across the marketplace. Because as we've talked about, there's going to be lots of candidates out there who are looking for work, irrespective of whether they're working or not, because they don't like what's happened to them during this period of time. So there's an opportunity to really walk into those type of clients and have a different conversation with them that is more consultative and more strategic going forward. And I think if we did those type of things, we'll lift recruitment up from where it is now to a higher plane. And once we start to get to that point where we're having those type of conversations with our clients, that's when we can start to really think about, can I convert my business from being contingency to retained, to offering recruitment services that we are paid solely for. And I think there's an opportunity to do that now, and those conversations need to start now. You are still going to get your transactional client and your transactional recruiter working in the old ways, but you're going to get far more agencies and far more companies working in a far more joint way than ever before. And I think it's important that we start to really embrace those clients and work with those clients and drive that to be the norm rather than the exception, because that was the exception back in the 80s and 90s. It's now a sort of a level playing field, I think, and it's now sort of pushing that further on from there.
Just to add to that, Howard, I think a couple of points worth making. Two words: mentoring and outplacement. So I mentioned the R word a while ago, recession. And a spike in unemployment figures. There's no one listening to this that would disagree with that. We know it's coming. I think you need to be close to clients to pick up Howard's theme. Some of them will be losing people. You can offer outplacement services. So you can, if you can get to that, if they're prepared to discuss it with you, and if you have a trusted advisor position with your clients and you have a decent relationship, they will start talking to you about the fact they're going to downsize. Here's an opportunity for us to go and talk to their employees when the time is right, to support them through that redundancy program, to help them with their CVs, to give them career advice, to talk to them about interviewing techniques, how to look for new jobs, in fact, to help them find new jobs, and a whole range of other things that outplacement services provide. And you can charge for that. I've done it, did it quite recently with a very big company, as Howard did with me, and I've done it in the past. I remember back in the day when I was the Office Angels MD and I was away at an international conference. And I can't remember the exact year, but it would have been coming off of a downturn. and there was a guy from America talking, Mike Harrison, and he owned, or he had owned, but was now part of Adeco, an outplacement business, and they were making shed loads of money at a point at which the rest of us were struggling to an extent because the market had gone down. But of course, outplacement businesses thrive during downturns. They're the counterbalance to recruitment businesses. When the times are good, we do extremely well, we make lots of money, and outplacement not as good. But during the downturn, outplacement fees are fantastic. I remember feeling really envious that they had in the States an outplacement business and wanted to do something in the UK. So here's an opportunity for us to get involved in the event that the companies start laying people off. And as I say, Howard and I have done that quite recently, a year or so ago. In addition, mentoring, we're talking about looking after furloughed staff, our own people, helping them get over these bumps, getting their heads in the right space and so forth. Why not offer that to your clients? Why not say, look, we can provide mentoring services, we can provide counseling services. If you're slightly uncomfortable about that, there are plenty of people that you can connect with that can be a part of your business, if you like, white labeled as part of your business, that you can provide mentoring and counseling services to clients. And again, this is a fee earning opportunity when the time is right. Now, there are things we can do, as Howard said, over and above just pure recruitment. And I believe going forward, that's exactly what forward-thinking recruitment businesses will be doing. They'll be providing a range of services, obviously at the heart of which will be us finding people jobs, placing interim and permanent staff, of course. But I think that there are other areas that we can work in very capably, either from our own experiences and abilities, and indeed by bringing other people into our businesses on a freelance basis that we can use. So I think getting close to clients right now and having discussions around what they need, what's going to make them feel safe in terms of going back to work are very important questions and very important conversations.
Let's answer a couple of really quick questions because I think we've got halfway through the webinar, and I think we've got
fast.
A couple of questions that are probably going to take a quite a lot of our time. So let's just very quickly look at a couple of them. There's a question here from Fiona Brown from Hall Recruitment. Is pressing a Zoom call on a client always a successful method to connect?
Do you want me to answer that? I think I don't think we can press a Zoom call on anybody, actually, Fiona. I mean, I think we've been talking a lot about new technology. In fact, it's old technology. We're using Zoom at the moment. Everyone's using Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Skype or GoToWebinar, whatever the platforms are, Odro, Interview. I mean, all these video platforms are there, and there are going to be many, many more appearing. I think what we can be really clear about with technology is that there'll always be 20 to 30% of people that are really up for using it, very thrilled and excited about embracing new technology. And then you'll get the 70, 80% of the rest of people who are nervous, even scared of it. So I think we can't make people use it, but I would really urge you to try to insist as best you can without upsetting anybody that it's in their interest. This is to use video platforms to meet candidates. We're going to end up going back to work fairly soon, still with social distancing in place for the conceivable future. And candidates and clients are going to be nervous to meet each other physically, at least for an initial interview. And I would urge everybody listening, let's get those initial interviews, those initial filter discussions placed on a video platform. Firstly, it's better for the ecology if people aren't schlepping all over the country, pumping gunk into the atmosphere. It takes a lot less time. It's easy to arrange. It's easy to coach our candidates. We can coach clients, and we can participate, back to Howard's point about using these platforms to get us exclusivity or retained opportunities. I think quite rightly that there is no substitute for face-to-face, physical, as it were, meets. And if we can achieve that, then great. I suspect lots of placements will occur without anybody actually meeting each other physically. But I definitely think that we can end up with a hybrid where the initial interview is a video interview. And then if the candidate and clients are serious about taking things forward, then I think we can look at physical discussions with social distancing involved. But that initial interview, why not? There's so many benefits from everybody's perspective. One of the things I would add, though, and I had this conversation the other day with one of my clients, is we need to be thinking in terms of our staff about hours, because a lot of those discussions for candidates on a video platform will only really happen when they feel safe to have those conversations, meaning that they'll need to be in a private space. And that private space is going to look like their home a lot of the time. So those conversations are likely to be happening first thing in the morning or in the early evening. And if we're going to facilitate and even participate in those calls, our guys are going to be starting earlier and finishing later. So we're probably going to need to look at shift systems with our people. Some starting a bit later, working later, some starting earlier, finishing earlier, so that our actual presence as a business is probably going to look like something between 7 in the morning till 8 or even 9 at night. But we stretch that by getting people to work those elongated hours. We're asking them to do more hours by working a shift system. Those are the kind of considerations. I don't think you can insist on people using video platforms, but I absolutely believe with all my heart and soul that using these systems is going to enhance our consultative services, connect us more closely with our clients and candidates. Seeing people, as it were, even on these platforms is still significantly better than a phone call or, God forbid, sending just emails. So I would urge you to do everything you can to explain the features and benefits of using video platforms to your clients, but expecting that you're going to get pushback from 70 to 80%. If you can get 20 to 30% of your clients to come on board, and we use those case studies, those success stories, and pump that out to the rest of our clients, I guarantee you within 18 months to 2 years, the tide will have turned and you'll have 70, 80% of your clients and candidates using video platforms and only 20, 30% not. So I think expect a challenge, but it will get better.
I've got to admit, Paul, I do love your quick answers.
That's Harry's way of telling me to shut up, guys.
I think the answer to the question is pressing a Zoom call on a client always a successful method to connect? I think we've got to think about it in a sort of more logical way. What Paul was saying, right, is there through the whole process of using video technology will become more and more. And I think we've already got to that situation where clients are probably already using 20% or 20% of clients are using it because 20% of agencies are using it. It will now just escalate because all clients are using it and all agencies should be using it. I think the difference is that where I have sales calls going into my clients, I book a meeting. And I have a Zoom booked in, I have a team booked in, I have a call booked in, and I book it in their diary. And so it's in their diary because what I've found, and what everyone else has found, I found that my diary space, even though, inverted commas, there's no work going on, has been absolutely maximized constantly. And therefore, grabbing time in people's diary is really important. So if you're talking to clients and you're talking to candidates, you need to book a diary invite with them and send that to them and get them to recognize that. It increases commitment. It also puts a time bound on yourself, and it also prioritizes things. And I think clients are like to work in that type of way rather than just having that cold call coming through. If you've spoken to them and you're talking to them and you say, right, okay, why don't I set this up and I'll set a diary invite out, etc., etc., I think you'll get far more comeback from your clients because far more clients will be sticking to their diaries because their diaries are going to be packed as well as ours. So I think booking things into people's diaries is really important. Another question we got here, Paul, was quality versus quantity. Anticipating more candidates available on the market, but do you think the quality is there? And that's from Natalie Wells at Natalie Wells Recruitment.
Well, look, I think there's going to be a lot of quantity. I mean, all those of us that work through recessions in the past will know that. I couldn't keep count, but I think this will be about the 5th or 6th downturn I've experienced in my 40-odd year career in the recruitment industry. And typically, there's a vast volume of people that appear on the market for obvious reasons. There will be quality candidates in there. I've already mentioned that some people will be thinking that they want to change jobs. They won't be forced to leave their current employers. They won't be in a position where they've been made redundant, but they will make choices. I don't want to work for this company anymore. I want to change. Or I want to change career paths. I want to do something different. I think there will be a reasonable percentage of candidates out there that will offer us quality skills and quality ability and experience. And I think that, we talked about this quite recently. You need to be very focused on which particular sectors and markets, and within those sectors and markets, which of those clients are going to be hitting the ground running and what particular skill sets they're going to be looking for. A bit back to the earlier question about now getting close to clients, so that we begin to understand pretty clearly just what we're on the lookout for, and you can pass that information on to your consultants who should be passing it back to you. What market intel are you getting, and what kind of candidates are we on the lookout for? When we found them, back to my earlier point, we should be offering them out as we would do under normal circumstances. So I think there will be quality in amongst the quantity. And I think that you need to be able to recognize that quality when you see it, because you're aware of what your clients are seeking.
I think my answer to that is very, very simple, is that the quality and quantity ratio doesn't change just because there's a recession. What changes is the availability of the quality candidates to the marketplace. That's what changes. And so I think what you've got to think about is your candidate attraction methodology needs to really be upped and upskilled, because if you're attracting better quality candidates to your client base, therefore you'll get a better reception from your client base because the quality is improved. So infiltrating your candidate market now is really important, because the ratios don't change irrespective of recession or boom time. They don't change. So you've got to really work hard now finding those candidates that are, very, very sought after and good candidates to work with. And if you can find the quality of the candidates, then it goes back to the first thing we said, which is the most important thing we should be doing at the moment, and that is presenting quality candidates to our clients. It starts to sort of look at a methodology that we should be looking at. If you own your candidate marketplace, you own the marketplace. And that has been throughout time. The agencies that really dominate certain marketplaces dominate because they own the candidate marketplace and they know every single candidate in there. So to me, that's the question, or that's how I'd answer the question, Natalie, is that the quality and quantity ratios don't change. What has to change is your ability to attract the quality candidates to you. And that means going out to the marketplace and speaking to those candidates from there.
Howard, brand build. We have to brand build at the moment. Build your brand, be very active on social media, make sure people are aware of you, be very noisy, as it were, as a business, so that the candidates are aware of your presence. And of course, the moment that you start picking up new opportunities, I don't need to remind you, but you need to be making sure the public are aware of what you have. And you need to be, as I say, making sure that every one of your consultants starts to get much more active around social media connections and speaking to candidates too. So, start to create more noise. We've needed to be quiet recently for obvious reasons, but I think we are now in that ramp up period, and now we need to start to ratchet up the activities at every level, but in particular around marketing and brand building.
There's a question here as well that I think is a very simple answer to this. Is working from home the new norm for the recruitment companies, by Nick at Mason Wake? And I think the answer there, Nick, is yes and no. I think as lockdown is lifted, if you're an agency that is demanding everybody to come back into the office and work in the office, I think you've misjudged what the nation is actually feeling and what's going on in the marketplace. If you suddenly go to the other side and think, right, I should have zero office and everyone working out of there, you have to have a very good reason why that is. And I've spoken to a number of agencies, and there's a couple of people that I think they might be on this call already, who've already done that and gone to virtual offices. But what they've done to go to virtual offices, and they've got everyone working from home, still on a weekly basis, they're having office space where people can come into those offices and still interact with a team environment. I think there's going to be a big evolving recruitment sort of a big evolving work sort of ethic about work-life balance, and that means working from home and having that ability to work from home. But I think it's going to take some time to really what's the way? It's going to take some time to really embed this methodology of working from home solely compared to what it is. So I think there's going to be a transition period from there. So I don't think it is going to be the new norm. I think it's going to be the new thing that we should be offering to our consultants coming into the business, because our clients will also be offering it. And I also think when we look at what we should be doing with regards to connecting with our client and candidate base, then working from home could be ideal for certain parts of our marketplace. If you then start thinking about expanding your recruitment business itself, not being stuck to a geographical location could be a massive advantage, because it could mean now, rather than saying, right, I want to open an office in Sydney, rather than having to physically trek out to Sydney and open an office in Sydney, if you can find good consultants in Sydney and they want to work remotely and they can do that, then you've got an opportunity to really expand your offering. So I think very quickly, is it the new norm? Yes and no is the answer. I think it will take time to embed, and you have to embed it properly to make sure it works.
I think I remember years ago, Howard, when I was often doing media work, and there was a big push on people being able to work from home now because of technology and emailing and all that sort of palaver. And I used to get calls from the press saying, "Would this mean that the offices are defunct? No one's going to use them anymore?" And I remember talking about how important socialization is for people. You know, we come to work not just to earn money, but to meet other people, to have some fun, to just generally chit chat. I mean, you know, we can make light about the chat in the kitchen or across the photocopier, but the truth is that it is good for our mental health. We need to see other people. It isn't healthy to be completely isolated, as we know. So I think there'll be a hybrid, to Nick's point. Hi, Nick, how are you? There'll be a hybrid answer to this to some extent. I think you're right. I think working from home is fine. I think getting that balance is important. But at the same time, you're going to have to create methods, if you are working from home, to meet on a regular basis. And I'm not just talking about Zooms or Microsoft Teams meetings. I am talking about physically meet. And as owners of businesses, you know, getting people to connect with your company and, as it were, own it in heart and soul, hearts and minds, is a challenge when you're not seeing them every day. So different methods, more enhanced methods of communication and physically meeting each other is going to be important. But if you can strike that balance, there's no reason why you need a large office, why you couldn't have smaller offices, why you couldn't create for people far better work-life balances that could create a great deal more loyalty for your people, would also make them far more productive and happier. So I think this is a great opportunity, as we've been talking about for the last 10 weeks, to review work methods. But do I think an office space is a thing of the past? No, I don't. I think there'll be a need for us to have offices, but I think in a more flexible fashion going forward.
So I'm going to try put all the questions now that are all on a similar thing together, and we've got probably, if we stay to the hour, we've got 13 minutes to answer these questions. Okay, and I think it will probably take a lot longer than 13 minutes. So the questions go: should we diversify? From Devia. What's the biggest change that we think we'll see in the recruitment industry post-lockdown? From Sarah Grace at Kate & Co. We go, what do you think will be the biggest change in the way we operate as an industry going forward? From Rosie Checkfield at May Stevens. What is next for the recruitment industry? From Abby Howell at Truly Tailored. And then Annette Thorpe from G2 Legal. Throughout this period, we've worked really hard to make concerted efforts to continue to engage and keep in touch with our clients and candidates and build goodwill equity. And I think that comment there, goodwill equity, I've heard an awful lot recently, is a key comment, which has been positively received. This is not unique to us, by the way. The relationships are building, maintained, etc. We have adapted our practices in readiness for the new dawn, but we are about to compete with those who have not done so. For those who have furloughed staff and not engaged with clients during lockdown.
You're frozen.
I'm sure people can still hear me.
Yep.
A period of time. So they were worried about them strolling back into the market and carrying on like they've just done before, doing post-box recruitment, undercutting on rates and focusing on volume rather than quantity. Engaging in clients to support those who have supported them is going to be difficult when, as it always is, It's all about delivery on need. So I think this is a huge topic about what is coming next in recruitment, what recruitment will look like. And I think what I stated earlier on, Annette and everybody else on this question, is the market is starting to change, and the market is starting to really go from those, transactional recruiters, as you put them, as post box recruiters, who are just interested in shoving a bum on a seat and hoping it stays there after the rebate period, or hoping it stays there for a contract for a period of time. And I think what's happening is clients are becoming more aware of their vulnerability, their mental health, and the quality of the people they have in their business. If you look at what every business owner is doing at the moment, they're looking around their business and looking at who is in the business, who's up for the fight, who is really ingrained in the business that can help the business move forward. And they're taking an opportunity then to remove people from businesses who aren't potentially engaged. So I think what's going to happen is the undercutters, the people who are focused on volume, who focus on profit, they'll not naturally gravitate to the clients who are focusing exactly the same way. And we've all worked with those type of clients where you have to put 15 CVs to get 2 interviews, then you have to put another 15 CVs in. CVs go into a black hole, we never hear anything from them, because they are exactly the same. They are just transactional clients looking for a quick fix. They don't understand that the quick fix that they want would be cured by them having a proper recruitment process and engaging properly. Those that have started to engage with the recruitment agencies in that way are starting to take massive market share of the quality candidates that are available out there. Why? Because the agency is feeling part of the client's journey, and the client is feeling part of the agency's journey, and therefore the agency is out in the marketplace selling the benefits of working for that client constantly. So I think the real big changes that's going to come in the industry, besides the technology changes that are coming, is the way that we interact with our client base and our candidate base will change. I think however much technology we bring into the marketplace, that human interaction side is the bit now that's going to take precedent. And I'm doing a course at 1 o'clock about client visits. I'm shocked about how many clients come to me and say, "Oh, I've never met my agent. I've never seen my agent. I do a lot of sports and meet people who from a lot of different walks of life, and I talk to them about recruitment, and they say exactly the same thing. Yes, we use recruitment agencies, but I've never met my recruitment agency. And yet every time I speak to an agency, they tell me point blank that they go out on meetings." Well, what type of meetings are they actually going on? Because it doesn't sound like our clients think they get enough meetings with agencies, so agencies truly understand our business. I think when I started in recruitment and there wasn't the opportunity to network electronically, you had to go out and face-to-face your clients. You had to go out and meet your clients to A, create a bond, B, show that you're capable of actually providing to that client, and C, get a true understanding of what you're actually recruiting for. And I think we'll start to fall back into that, and Zoom, webinar, interview, Hodro enable that to happen in a completely different way, because you can create a relationship over those type of video calls. Yes, it's different to creating a relationship to face, but you can create a relationship with that. So Tina from Sky, yes, we can create relationships, and it's about how you do that. So it's about coming onto these calls and being professional on this call, being eloquent on this call, knowing your information about the marketplace. And I think those recruiters that go back into the market and truly understand what the market is doing and what the market is about, then they will find that they get more work. And that comment about understanding the temperature of the market and how the market is feeling is really important. So if you're a post-box recruiter and you're just going back into your clients offering a bum on a seat, I think that you'll find that they get a lot of short change compared to what they used to get, because I think clients now start to understand the value of having the right people in place. So if we are selling the right things to our clients and not just based on skills, because remember, most clients hire on skills, but 99% of the time they fire on behaviors. And if we understand that statement correctly, then we can alter how we sell to our clients and change the way that we present candidates to our clients and get far more results from our clients and bound together with regards to relationships and working from there. And I always think it's very much like, people talk about, can we do this online? Can we do this online? Well, if we think about the explosion of the biggest markets in the world just recently, in the last 10 years, has been online dating. So the answer to the question is yes, absolutely we can do it online. But it's about being upfront, honest, and straight to the point with our clients about what we can do and how we can work with them. And I feel that that is going to be the biggest change that's going to come down the recruitment marketplace in a long time. And it'll start to tip the balance where the transactional will appear before and just throwing bums on seats. And I think you'll find that's going to start to rotate, where those that create true relationships with clients will get far more benefit from their client than ever before. And benefit means you'll create far much more profit. So looking after your people is really important, because if you look after your people will look after your client. If you look after profit, all they'll do is hunt your client. And that's a very different sale, a very, very different sale. And I think I described it last week on a webinar. I had an issue with my phone last week, and I phoned my phone provider because I couldn't get through to Apple. And all they were interested, oh, you've got an old phone. Can I update your iPhone 7 to the iPhone 11? And I said, no, I just want to cure this problem. And they went for 20 minutes trying to sell me new products, new services, etc. I ended up putting the phone down to them. I spoke to Apple. Apple were only interested in curing my problem. They weren't interested what type of phone it was, the age of the phone, or trying to upsell me. They were interested in my problem. And if you look at Apple's methodology, their people in their stores and their people on their phone lines have no targets. They are all about customer-centric service. And if we get that customer-centric service right, then we'll move forward. So there's a question, why is Apple the most profitable business in the world? Is it because they have their clientele right at the heart of their business and they service that clientele perfectly?
I mean, Howard, if I could just add, I think that to pick up Annette's point, I think one of the issues that will be apparent in the marketplace will be recruitment businesses returning, getting desperate in some cases, and undercutting, bringing down their prices, which I've always thought, in all the years I've been in the industry, is the cheapest method in the sense of winning business. It's not something I would ever do. I always think that if you drop fees, it's almost impossible to get them to climb again in the future. If clients accept cheap fees, you'll have a struggle getting them to pay more when things improve. So my view about that is there's not much we can do to stop some of our competitors going in and acting in this very sort of harried, distressed fashion, offering their services very cheap. What we need to do to counter that, to pick up Howard's theme, is to be offering better quality services. The very least you want to be doing is holding the line on your margins. And I'm hoping that we will also be able to improve those margins in due course through the additional services and enhanced support that we can provide to clients. So can we stop them undercutting us? Not really. Does it mean we should do the same? Absolutely not. What it means we need to do is combat that by just being better in every sense. And that is all about being very close to your clients. To pick up Howard's point, I think, when you look at yourself as consumers, and, we're all consumers, we will all pay more money for services that we believe or perceive to offer better quality service over other services. We all do it. We all spend more on some products than on others because we believe, a bit like the Apple story, that it's worth the extra money. And that's where you should be positioned. You shouldn't be at the cheap end of the market. You should be at the higher end of the market based on the absolute quality of your service and your focus on customer relationships and customer satisfaction. If you provide people with outstanding customer service, they will pay your fees. And that's a fact. And I've been doing that with my businesses for years and years and years. I have never operated a cheap rated fee business ever. We've always attempted to be at the higher end, at the premium end, But to do that, you have to demonstrably be better. You have to provide better quality service, not play at it, but be better in every sense. When you do that, you generate loyalty, long-term loyalty from clients, and they will pay the fees because they understand that what you offer them is something they can't get elsewhere.
I think it's quite interesting that if we look at that, there is two types of stress. There's what's called eustress, which is the stress you feel before, say, Christmas and birthday parties, which is quite an elating stress. And there's de-stress, which is what you feel when you're under pressure. You're under stress from there. And what happens when you become under stress, you start to take shortcuts. You start to do things wrong. You start to miss things. And those companies that put their consultants under stress to chase profit, that's exactly what they do. And that's why they get a poor quality of service from those type of agencies. And therefore, what Paul's saying about stepping above those is really important. And that also helps for things such as mental health and physical well-being, etc. Because obviously clients are now going to be more aware of the mental health and physical well-being of their own staff, but also of their suppliers going into them. So again, working with your clients and helping de-stress your clients and helping them to de-stress your business will all of a sudden put you a step up from everybody else.
So Howard, unfortunately, we're kind of almost at the end here. There's a couple of subjects that I think if we tried to rush through now, we wouldn't be doing them justice. And one of them is mental health. I mean, there's a question here from Milo. What are your tips for maintaining good mental health during a downturn? I wouldn't want to rush through that. I think that's something we can pick up next week, Milo. So let's talk through that next week in detail. It will be just as relevant next week as it is this week for sure, and deserves more time and energy, I think. And there are various other questions regarding moving into other sectors, diversifying. Again, we would struggle now to really address those points without hurrying through them, and they deserve more time and effort from us next week. So I think we've got probably half a dozen questions here, Howard, that we can push into next week and cover off. As I say, diversity and mental health stand out for me. And I think we can tackle those at great length and with other questions, of course, next week when we return at our usual time. This time it will be Tuesday at 11 o'clock rather than Wednesday because of the short week.
So yeah, what I'd suggest then is if you've got other questions that you want to add to this, because I think this has given us a great understanding of the marketplace and your appetite and what your questions are. So if you send more questions in, we're happy to answer those questions. We're happy to put them up. So next week we'll put a topic out with regards to what we see the market moving like next month. So when the new market comes back, which will uncover what sectors are growing, etc., and how to stay mentally aware. And we'll start to build from there. So all that leaves me to say is thank you very much. It was a very interesting, I found this one a really interesting webinar. So I hope you stay safe, stay well, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care, everybody. Have a great week ahead. Keep safe.